a subject matter that is, I guess you can say, near and very close to my heart is dealing with children, uh, specifically the children of your spouse that were not uh, biologically yours. That's what I'm getting at. How do you deal with stepchildren? Is there someone out there that has stepchildren and you're having issues with them, communication problems or disciplinary problems, or they don't like or love you? Then this might just be an interesting take on that subject. I have experienced this for quite some time in my life. My companion, when we met, she had children already. Now, I've said this in time past. Maybe you have or have not heard me say this before. I've always been of the belief that I accept you as you are. What I've never subscribed to was surprises in a relationship. So if I were to meet a woman, hypothetically, and she was hiding something from me intentionally because she felt as though me knowing about that particular thing would harm our relationship, so she would not tell me, I have a problem with that. I don't want to know all of your history. That's a brother teacher. I don't want to know all of the men that you've been with prior to me. I don't want to know how you were in bed with them. It's none of my business. I could care less. I don't want to know that you have a baby's daddy locked up in prison necessarily. The only time that I want to know anything in a newfound relationship with a young lady is when knowing that particular thing is going to help us in our relationship. If it's something that's going to be detrimental to myself or both of us or the family by and large, I want to know that. But all of the other nonsense, I could care less. Okay, so that was that. Now, getting to the point of someone else's children. This is kind of sensitive to me. Sometimes you meet a young lady and she has, let's say, a couple of children, a male and a female. Use hypotheticals, if you will, a son and a daughter. And say they're the age of maybe 5 and 8. How do you deal with parenting? My first answer from the side or standpoint of the woman should be this. Make very certain that the new man in your life is children friendly. Make sure that that man has children, perhaps, and has done a great job at taking care of his children, or if he currently has children that are under the age of, let's say, 18, if he's taking care of his fatherly duties from a financial / emotional standpoint. He must be doing those things. That father should be in the lives of his children, even if they're not living with him and he decided to pursue another relationship with you. When a woman will not allow her new beau, her new hubby, her new boyfriend, whatever term fits you today, when she won't allow you, the man, to see your children, to talk to them on the phone, to have occasional weekend visitation, or even allow them to come and spend the weekend with you, that's a flag waving in the wind. That's a red flag. That's not good. That's selfish, as a matter of fact. That woman is going to drive a wedge between you and your children that should not be there. And then perhaps cause some conflict and tension between the mother of those children. So if you are the woman who accepts your new man and his family, then my hat goes off to you. That's the way it's supposed to be. And you should treat those children as if they were your own. Not any different. If you already have children in your home that are yours from your past relationship, then you should treat that man's children as though they were your children the same. You should extend the same amount of love, the same amount of attention to those children as well. Now, flipping the script, if it was the man, he was at home and he had children living with him and they were his children, he had custody of his children, and the woman's coming in, and she doesn't have any children, and she's coming to live with you, that woman should accept your children as well. She should accept you as a package with your children. That's only right. It's only fair. Because if she does not, then she doesn't want you. What she really wants is you and no company. That's not fair. And if you see this, I don't care how banging her body is, how cute she is, how long her hair is, how tight her clothes are, how much money she makes, or where she lives, or what kind of vehicle she drives, and all of this other hoopla. I don't care about any of that. If that woman does not accept your children, men, then she can't accept you. It's plain and simple, cut and dry. So, this is what I experienced. I was in a relationship. I'm going to bounce back and forth from reality to hypotheticals, and you may not even know the difference, but I'm going to tell you. In a situation where I'm in a relationship and I have stepchildren, and they are indeed my stepchildren, but when it comes down to discipline, I get flack. Now, there's something that draws her to me in a relationship, be it my suave and debonair disposition, or my white hair, or my intellect. I don't know. It's not a boatload of money. That's not drawing her to me. But something has drawn this lady to me. So she knows that I'm not a violent person. She knows that I'm a disciplined man. She knows that I have a military background. She knows that I have a martial arts background. She knows that I have a spiritual background, and so on, and that I'm very independent, but not overbearing. So I talk to her children, treat them with love, kindness, affection. That's always well received. But when it comes down to them breaking rules, or the rules of the house, I give conversation at first. Follow XYZ, and we're good. Give you a little leeway, just a little, because you're old enough to understand. Now, mind you, they graduated from the age of 5 and 8 years old now, so we're talking about 9 years old and probably 11 or 12. So you're old enough to know, and you're in school, you're school age children. So wash dishes. This is what your task or your job is. Oh, you're gonna wash dishes. Can so-and-so wash the dishes? Wait a minute. Your mother gave you the assignment of washing dishes. That's your job. So at some point in time, she washes part of the dishes and not all. At some point in time beyond that, she wants to get paid to wash dishes. My brother and I never got paid to wash dishes. Never got paid to clean our rooms. Never got paid to take the trash out and to keep the house in a clean fashion. Never got paid to do that. Never expected to be paid. My contention is this. We're a family. We live here. You live here. You ought to take pride and have respect for where you live. It's simple. Now, growing pains is what she's having, but that's okay. You have to teach children at the age of children how to become responsible adults. It's not the reverse. You don't wait till they become adults and start teaching them how to be an adult. You start giving them values while they're children, so that it carries on into their young adulthood and then middle age and so forth. Not the latter. So I'm a firm believer of this. So I explain to them, this is what you're supposed to do. Your mother's giving you this assignment, and I tell the young man, you take the garbage out, and you sweep the floor, and you do so on and so forth. It's what your mother's giving you to do, or I've given you to do even. Sometimes it wouldn't be done. Sometimes it's halfway done. So then we start issuing punishments and penalties. Well, we're going to take your cell phone away so you can't play video games. We're going to take your tablet away so that you can't get on the internet and you can play video games and do the things that you want to do and go on YouTube, which I don't believe you should be on anyway if you're under the age of 17. I don't believe you should be on YouTube as a child. I don't. That's just me. Let me know what you think. I believe that parents should be involved in those internet activities with their children. I don't believe that they should just let their children go and do what they want to do. Oh, here's your tablet, your new tablet. And then kids are putting passwords on, and they're going on Twitter, and they're going on Snapchat, and they're going on all of these other websites. You don't know what they're doing because you've basically given them free reign. That's not being a good parent. Not good parenting at all. So, I'm vehemently against a child running the house. They think that they are running the house when they try to play mom against dad. And I don't like that. Because if dad says you can't go out and play ball, but 5 minutes later you go ask your mom and she says yes, and I see you going outside to play ball, I'm going to have a problem with that. Because you're playing me against your mother. Don't like that. Or it could be the reverse. So I've been there and done that. And we came to the conclusion, and we told the children, don't do that, because that's being deceptive. It's being sneaky. It's being tactical. And if you'll do that, what else won't you do? So, calling me dad when I'm not your biological father has been a task for my stepchildren. Am I adamant about them calling me dad? No. It would be nice to hear it, or to hear sort of an inference to it, because I've been in their lives for a long time. Now, most people know me as minister, deacon, master, grandmaster, teacher, brother teacher, and so forth. And because of my martial arts background, the children call me teacher. Because most of my students that they're exposed to on a regular basis call me teacher, and they just started calling me teacher. And so I'm okay with that. But there's always this descending attitude still there with the teacher thing. Mom might say something to the children, and they'll say rather, teacher said. Doesn't make me feel too much of a fatherly figure when I'm called teacher by my stepchildren, you know. But anyway, I've learned to accept that over time. But getting to the discipline part, it's interesting to me, and it's funny how I believe, first of all, in spanking. I believe according to the scripture. The scripture says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And the scripture also says that if you beat, now beat doesn't mean bruises and blood and things like this, as most people will want to try to identify it with, but this is in the scripture, and it doesn't mean beat in that sense. But let's just replace that with whip. If you whip your children, you can't kill them. That's what the scripture says, in essence. So I believe that that is not the first call to action when a child is disobeying you or the child has a disciplinary issue. I believe in talking to your children, explaining, the rules to your children, talking to them from an adult to a child. We're never equal, never on the same level. And all of you women and even men that want to be your child's friend, you just ought to quit it. Your children are not your friends. You're a mom and your dad, and you are the parent. Two separate things. Mom and dad, biologically, meaning that you both partook in the act of sex to bring forth this human being into the world. That's mom and dad, biologically speaking. I'm sure you can figure the other part out later on if you have not had the blessing of being with or being raised by your biological parents. You had a foster parent perhaps, or a grandmother or grandparents raised you in general, and so forth. But they're your mom and dad, getting back to the biological side. They're not your friends. They're your parents. Parent means those guardians that are placed over you by God first, and secondarily by society, that says that you must provide some value to the lives of these impressionable brains, these minds, these children, and raise them up in such a way where they can be productive members in our society. So you must give them values, a value system. You must teach them about morality, what's right and wrong. You must teach them that they must be educated. You must teach them that they have to provide for themselves at some point in their lives, that they have to take care of themselves as individuals. And if peradventure they were to have a family, that they're going to have to take care of that family as well. These are the things that you must instill in your children, just to name a few. Now, spanking. If I tell you, don't do this particular thing, and you're looking me dead in my eyes, I'll ask you, do you understand what I'm saying? You say yes. And then I ask you to repeat to me what I said and explain it even. And you do that. Then you are now accountable. This is me talking to my stepchildren. And I tell them also that there's going to be a penalty. There's going to be a punishment that's going to be meted out if you don't follow this rule. And the mom and I are pretty much in sync. So once the rule is broken, and it's done in secret most of the time, it's never done in your presence, because if it's done in your presence, then it means that they must really be delusional. They must really be crazy to do it in your presence. They usually always do it away from you because they don't want you to know that they're doing it. So when it's time for the whipping, it's not excessive. It's just enough to remind you, because the punishment of taking away your video game doesn't seem to be doing the trick sometimes, and you have to tap the behind. And so you get resentment, even anger, frustration. Then they want to go to mom and complain to mom and he whipped me. And then they want to say, well, I wish I was living with my father, their biological father, or I wish that I was staying with my grandmother or my auntie or whoever. Those are the little tactics that they use to try to get to you. But it doesn't get to me. It doesn't get to you. So, as I said, I believe in spanking. And I will forever believe in spanking when it is appropriate. I don't believe that it's, like I said before, that it is the first line of defense, so to speak. I'll talk to them first. I give you the rundown of the rules, and I say, these are what the rules are. If you break those rules, we're going to take away some things. We're going to take away some privileges. You won't get to go to Kings Island, or you won't get to go to the Fun Factory, or you won't get to go skating or wherever, or you won't go out to a restaurant and eat. These types of things. Or you won't be visiting your cousin this weekend. Things like that. Those conditions. But oftentimes, they have amnesia. They forget that you told them things or those things, and then they break the rules anyway. And once you impose those punishments, it's as if you cut off one of their hands. Oh my God, this is not fair. Like you have never even had the conversation with them. And then when it gets overbearing, where the punishments that I just mentioned are not adequate anymore, then you have to pull out the switch, the belt strap, and impress it upon them. And then they look at you like, how dare you whip me? I mean, you see it in their face. You whipping me? But I have no problem whipping you. I'm your father, because your father's not here. And your mother and I have been together long enough to warrant me being your father. I am your parent. So it's not just your biological mother. It's me too. I'm your parent because I provide for you. You are under my roof. You're within the confines of my domicile. You eat my food. You get an allowance from me. So I'm your parent, and I have say-so over you, whether you like it or not. So, oftentimes parents, we have to do those things that seem unfavorable to our stepchildren as it relates to discipline, but you need to do it anyway. You need to grow a spine and discipline your children, even if it's your stepchildren. And you mothers, you shouldn't interfere. The same thing that drew you to that man, or drew you to me, the man, you should believe that I will never do anything to harm your children. All of those qualities that you see in me as a man, they are exemplified throughout my whole life, my whole existence. So it's not just to you, but it's to your children as well. But we have to understand that we're talking about two different dynamics. We're talking about two grown folks, and we're talking about children. We're not on the same plane. So children will do things that children do, and they will be responsible for things that children are supposed to be responsible or held responsible for, and adults for adults. But when you say that me chastising your children is above and beyond, and I haven't harmed the children, and if I make the statement to your son, your male child, that I'm trying to keep you from going to jail with your pants hanging off your behind, with your hat twisted around the side, and you bebopping, around the street, and you are not even 10 years old yet. So what are you trying to subscribe to? What are you trying to become at that age? So if parents don't give their children structure, if they don't teach them right and wrong, if they don't give them a guideline or a model as to how they should be as human beings, they're going to pick it up on the streets, in school, the public school system, private or otherwise. They're going to pick it up on YouTube, on the internet in general, watching cable television. They're going to pick it up somewhere else, and someone else is going to be raising your child indirectly. So they spend the majority of their time with you parents. Then you need to be investing some time in your children, and stop just throwing a remote control in their hand and sitting them in front of the flat screen, and stop allowing them to be on their cell phone for 3 and 4 hours at a time, and on the internet and on a tablet or a laptop or whatever for inordinate amounts of time. Invest some time in your children, because it takes a lot of effort to raise another human being. It is the greatest job that a man or woman will ever have, and that's raising another human being. It's more than just putting food on the table on a routine basis. It's more than just buying clothing, keeping them warm and safe from the elements, and taking them to and from school, seeing them on their first job. It's more than that. It is a great challenge to raise another human being, because what you're saying is, in essence, is that I am guiding you through life. I am prepping you for life, so that one day when I'm not here, you will be able to survive as an independent, and that you will be able to also pass this information on to your future family or generations, and so on and so on. That's what you want to do. But if you have no value system to give to your children, they're going to end up like you. You can only give what you have. If you have nothing, if you was raised in an abusive family situation and that's all you have, guess what? That's what you're going to give to your children. If your boyfriend or ex-husband beat you, and you have a good man in your life now, stop blaming him for your past. You know, my stepchildren love me. I believe this. They don't love being disciplined. In fact, no one really does. But it's for the betterment of that human being, for that child, to protect them from themselves in the future. So, I said that to say this. I've sort of scathed over a few points and bounced around, and may have even been a little redundant. But when you have stepchildren, you must accept those stepchildren as if they are your own, be you the male side of the relationship or the female side. Accept the children as your own and treat them as if they were your own. But don't stop disciplining your children, because discipline is the mainstay of any great civilization. You must be disciplined. You just can't be living in a chaotic situation with no guidelines, no boundaries, and so forth. I'm a firm believer of this. I've struggled with my stepchildren for quite a while. They know me. I believe if something happened to me, they would miss me if I were gone. This is not something that I lose sleep about, but I know that the things that I'm doing is for the betterment of those children. What about you? Do you have problems communicating with your stepchildren? Do you have problems giving in to them because they're not your biological children, and you feel like you have to please them and make them feel pacified, as opposed to actually teaching them about life? You should just really stop doing that. Do the right thing so that you won't really regret doing the wrong thing later. Add your comments, add your questions, your points of view in the comment section below. This video was sort of not bizarre, but it was sort of a different approach. I was in and out as being a participant from a reality standpoint, and also from a hypothetical. I was kind of mixing them or blending them together. But I hope that you got the gist of this video about being a step parent. It can be painful being a step parent. You shouldn't, as I forestated, get into a relationship where your partner doesn't accept your children, be it male or female, whichever side it is. Never do that. And your partner should accept you as a disciplinarian in a relationship when you're not doing anything to harm the children. A lot of times I've seen with women is that women want to carry their old baggage into the new relationship. Not to say that men don't and can't and have not, but I'm speaking about women at the moment. But women, from my experience, they want to compare you, the man, to their past experience or their past relationship. And that's not healthy for the relationship. Ladies, you need to stop doing that. And men, you need to stop expecting more of your woman than you should be expecting of her. If you knew that she wasn't able to cook when you met her, don't try to force that on her now. I mean, you spent the time with her for whatever period of time that was. So if you didn't iron these things out in the early part of the relationship, don't make them a big issue now in the present. Okay? Talk to one another. Communicate with one another in the spirit of love, not in a demeaning and degrading sense. Don't put the other person down. I mean, that sparkle that you both had in your eyes when you met one another, what happens to that later on in the relationship where you say, I can't stand that son of a gun or that so-and-so anymore, and then the man is calling the woman bitches and hoes and things like this? That's not good. It's not good for the health of the relationship. It's not good for you, and it's not good for her, and it's not good for the children or the family by and large. It's not good. And it's not good when you decide to separate or to leave one another, if that is what your choice is at the end of the day. It's not good, because you're leaving on a sour note, and you don't want to do that. You want to leave in an amiable situation. You want to leave mutually respecting one another. The same joy, the same peace that you had when you first met, that should be the same way that you leave. If you can't do that, then maybe you never had it in the first place and you were pretending to be who you were in the beginning. Someone needs to be the bigger person and say, sweetheart, this is not going to work. Or can we sit down and talk? And anytime a talk turns into a shouting match and you begin to throw things and break things, that's a whole nother level. that no one should ever have to experience or go through. Period. It shows childishness. It really does. That you've never grown up. You've never become a real adult. Adults talk things out intellectually, thought-provoking conversations, trying to make one another feel as comfortable as possible before, during, and even the breakup of the relationship. That was all that I had to say in this particular segment. It's gone on for about half an hour already. I thank you for listening, and I'm interested in knowing what your take is on stepchildren or just family life in general. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and I will respond to you, as I always say. So long.